Welcome to the Real Healing Institute show with Michelle Sinclair, divine healer and spiritual teacher.
Michelle is the real deal, and I can't recommend her highly enough for anyone seeking true healing and transformation.
She is a naturally gifted healer.
Are you ready to heal your mind, body, and soul from the inside out?
I left this session feeling a real change, and I'm sure I'll be going back to her for additional work.
I was able to verbalize feelings I normally don't want to deal with.
This is a powerful space for those seeking true healing and enlightenment.
My anxiety and anger was almost out of control, but I met Michelle and she changed my life.
It is time to learn the profound understandings of universal love. The Real Healing Institute show starts now.
Hello, everyone, and welcome in. I'm so excited today. We have Hope Miller with us. She is just wonderful. I'm going to give her all kinds of props here later on and tell you all the amazing things that she's done. But welcome, Hope. Do you want to just give us a little bit about yourself? Introduce yourself. Okay, cool.
Yeah, thank you. Michelle, thanks so much for having me on the show. I'm really excited to be here.
Of course.
And I look forward to our conversation. So again, my name is Hope Miller, and I am a Gestalt coach, which is kind of a fancy way of saying that I help people develop more awareness of themselves. I help them build a holistic awareness of themselves so that with that awareness comes more freedom and more energy to make the choices that align with what we're really looking for in our life. I actually came to this work from a corporate background. So I spent more than a decade training corporate leaders, helping them with their presence, their ability to show up and connect with an audience. And then out of that work, I grew more interested in doing deeper work with people, helping them really, again, build that awareness and relationship with themselves so that then they can create the kind of relationships and ecosystems that they want to create or heal in their lives.
I love this. This is amazing. So how long have you been doing this kind of work?
I started coaching and facilitating in 2012, and it's been a gradual process of shifting out of that corporate focus into more of, I guess you can call it the life coaching realm. I don't particularly like that word because all coaching is life coaching, whether you're a CEO or just a regular person. So yeah, it's been a gradual transition, but I'm at the place now where I'm full-time, devoted, and laser focused on helping people in a deeper, more transformational, personal way.
I love this. So Hope is on Gnostic TVs and my own networks, Portal to the Soul. And so this was, mostly, but not all, hypnosis practitioners and, people that work with really truly accessing us on a soul level. So kind of give us like a little brief overview of what people can expect. And we will link that so that people can go and they can watch it because it just came out this morning.
Yeah.
So that they can go and watch you on there. So give us a little overview of what that's all about.
Yeah, thank you. So that episode in the Portal to the Soul is about finding the sacred in the everyday. So when we have these really deep mystical experiences where we're accessing these eternal parts of ourselves, that's beautiful, that's great. And then the experience ends and you have to go back to life. Right? Whether it's through hypnosis or meditation or whatever the pathway is to take you into this space, this deeper space of consciousness, it doesn't last forever. At some point, you've got to go fold the laundry and pick up the kid and like walk the dog and break down the Amazon box and do the dishes. You have to do all these things. And so in that episode, I was really exploring how can we not lose touch with those experiences? And this is a real area of interest of mine. How do we integrate these profound experiences that we've had through whatever channel? How do we integrate them into our life so that we don't lose them and we can still somehow, throughout the kind of humdrum mundaneness of our day, we can still find those moments to drop in and connect to these deeper parts of ourselves. And this deeper connection to the cosmos around us.
Beautiful. That is so important, right? Because so many people do have these profound experiences, then they get out of them, and then they try to explain them with human words and human understanding and human terms, but that was not the experience that you just had. You had a mystical type of experience. And so it's almost like we dull it down. We come out and we're shining, and then we, through our own humanness, take the shine away. And why do we do this? Because it's just our human nature. So that in itself, that is powerful and profound work. So how do you suggest, that people do this type of work to stay in touch with that?
Yeah. Before I answer that question, I just want to give a shout out to one of my favorite words in the English language, the word ineffable. Ineffable, something that can't be described. And I think that is just a very fitting word for these experiences, because they are ineffable. They don't fit in language. And if, we do try to fit them in language, we might sound a little wacky,
Yeah, or we dull the shine down.
We dull the shine, exactly. We can't fit it into language, so we just kind of like you're stripping the veneer off furniture. Yeah. So how do we do this? So paradoxically, what I focus on in that episode, and then what I focus on in a lot of my work, is grounding. Sometimes these experiences, they're up here, they're up in the ether. Maybe we're out of our body. It feels transcendent. So I focused on some techniques for how to ground us, how to create immanence, because that's really, when we shuffle through the day-to-day of our life, I mean, these are not transcendent experiences. I don't know how you feel folding the laundry or breaking down, all the Amazon boxes. That's my job in my marriage. I'm the Amazon box breaker downer. So there's always one. So those are imminent experiences, right? Those are not like transcendent experiences. So I focused on some techniques for how can we ground and really connect to our body and connect to the earth, and use that as a vehicle for tapping back in to the depth of that consciousness arising, that mystical experience.
This is beautiful. So some people don't know what grounding is. So let's talk about that for a minute, because I know this was years ago. I walked into this lady's shop. I had just stepped on a nail, and it was pretty intense. And I walk in, and she just looked at me and she was like, "Oh, girl, you need grounding." And I was like, "I don't even know what that means. What are you talking about?" She's like, "Well, just go outside. You need to walk on the earth. You need to." And I was like what? Like, how does this matter? Well, since then, I've looked up blood slides and what your blood looks like before you ground versus after 10 minutes of grounding is profound and amazing. The earth is magnetic. It is resetting. It's doing all these things. And I didn't back then know the importance of just being outside, being in nature, having bare feet down on the earth and truly grounding. So if you're telling somebody, you need to ground, what are you telling them?
Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, and I think, to me, I agree. I think that's kind of the essence of grounding. It's literally feet on the ground, your bare feet, our bare feet on the actual earth. So I was filming this. I filmed the episode in, I think it was still January or maybe early February, and there was like a foot of snow on the ground. And I was like, I don't really know that I can tell people to take off their shoes and go walk around outside barefoot. So I touched on that, but I was really focusing on some other techniques. And one that I landed on that, might be sort of comical is watching birds. I think that observing nature, and birds in particular, can really help us remember that we're connected to all of this. It's not just like I live in a house or I'm in an office building and then there's nature out there, but it helps us to really connect and orient ourselves. And that's easy to do when there's a foot of snow on the ground. But I began with a very brief meditation, a body scan, and starting to build our awareness of where our body is, because we don't pay attention to that. We don't always know what our body's doing. And I've coached so many corporate leaders on giving presentations, and they have no idea what their hands are doing or what their feet are doing. They're just kind of wiggling and wandering, and they don't know what their body's doing. So I start with this body scan and becoming aware of simple things. Like if you're sitting, do you feel your hips and your pelvis in the seat? Do you feel the fabric of your clothes against your skin? Can you feel your feet on the floor, even if you're wearing shoes? So just a simple taste of becoming aware of where is our body and what is it doing? And then from there, we can move from that place. Another exercise I did once we did a body scan was a rooting exercise. So imagining roots coming out of our body and rooting us to the earth. Again, this is, I think, a pretty useful alternative if you don't want to walk around in the snow.
Yeah.
Although some people do that and they swear by it. I'm not there yet.
It'll come.
I like to keep my feet toasty. So anyway, I guide the audience through a rooting exercise, imagining roots coming out of the body. And oftentimes when I do this exercise, I imagine the roots coming out of my pelvis or my ovaries, but you could also do it from the heart, from the feet, the soles of the feet, whatever makes the most sense for your mind. And seeing that visual image of the roots coming out of you, extending into the earth and rooting us and grounding us.
And so, doing something like this, if somebody's if they've never done it, it can sound like, oh, whatever. But it really is this powerful, profound thing. And one thing that it also does is it gets you out of your mind immediately because it's putting you into your body. So you're not thinking about this or that. You were thinking about what you were doing at that time. And so, if somebody has anxiety or something like this, what a profound exercise that they can do. I know they say a lot of, focus on the breath. Well, the only reason we're doing this is to get your mind into your breath and into something that you're truly doing. But what a profound thing that is something that's so simple, truly can be for people.
Yeah. Thanks for saying that. Yeah, and it's deceptively simple. It's really deceptively simple. Not only does it have this impact that maybe we don't think it's going to have, like that's unexpected, but it's also, I think it can be harder than it sounds. Some folks really struggle with visualization. They're like, wait, what? You want me to do what? What's growing out of what? And I think it's a little bit of a muscle. We have to get comfortable with it. We have to kind of get comfortable with seeing what the prompt is, and then giving ourselves permission to go with it, because it takes some trust, because if we're not used to interacting with our body in this way, we're not used to being guided through imagery or through a brief meditation, it can feel uncomfortable. Absolutely. And I just thought of another point. Something else just popped into my head. Oh, about the brain and anxiety. I so appreciated you saying that, because our brain, it does not want to live in the present moment. It just doesn't. It doesn't matter what we try to do. Our brain's like, nope, I'm 5 steps ahead. What's happening next? What's tomorrow? What's the next week? Have you checked off your to-do list? It just doesn't want to stay present. And I think the paradox is the more present we are, the safer we come to feel.
Totally. Safety, huge. When you feel safe, everything shifts. I was speaking to somebody the other day, and he's in his 70s, and he said his entire life he has never felt safe. So the nervous system is constantly like this. And so then what happens? Well, there's diseases, there's, physical ailments that come in because the body is not at rest, and it's supposed to be, at rest. There was this really cool exercise that I stumbled across
when I was doing hypnosis training a long time ago. And this guy, this was like a fast induction that he was, doing with people. And so he's having you, look at your hand and say, look at that hand, that's a hand, blah, blah, blah. And he goes, that's my hand. And the second that, and you're saying this out loud. And so the second that I said, like, oh, that's my hand, I had this shot go through my body that was like, oh, ooh, that's really weird. And so I kept saying it and kept saying it and realized I had been disassociated from my body, which happens to so many people, especially when you're young and have gone through trauma. So I discovered this. I called my mom. I'm like, Mom, I want you to try this exercise because I want to see if it does to you what it did to me. And it did the same thing to her.
Wow.
So then I go to school, I'm doing a presentation for a school class, high school class, and I had them all do it. And out of the whole class, there's only one person that felt like, this was weird. But what a simple little exercise that can be done, because some of us, if we had trauma or if we had whatever, we're really not in here. We're not in here at all because it wasn't safe to be. So these grounding exercise, what a beautiful way to put you back in your body where you're supposed to be and to make you feel safe, calm your nervous system, all these wonderful things. It's beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, so you are also part of the Medicine Garden, which will also be linked below here once it comes available. It's not quite out yet, but give us a little overview of this.
Yeah, absolutely. So in that episode, or in that symposium episode for Medicine Garden, I'm focusing on the concept of spiritual emergence. And so spiritual emergence is a movement towards building, or actually it's not really building, it's more of like a movement towards recognizing and becoming aware of our spiritual self, which is something we're also cut off from, either culturally or through trauma or all of the above. And so sometimes the experience of spiritual emergence, where we're kind of gradually discovering like, hey, I have this spiritual self, maybe I'm kind of interested in spiritual things, what's beyond just this material world. Sometimes it's a really gradual, beautiful process. It unfolds naturally and organically, and it's great. We're able to complete it. But what often happens is that it becomes a bit more of an emergency. It kind of bursts onto the scene in a chaotic way. It can create, the process of spiritual emergence can create disruption in our life. It can sometimes, in some ways, mirror psychosis if we feel euphoric and transcendent, and maybe we hear a voice talking to us. These things, if we share them to someone, they might think like, ooh, that sounds like you have psychosis. But there's some important distinctions, which I touch on in the episode. And so connecting with plant medicine is one way that spiritual emergence can happen very, very abruptly. It can also happen through a trauma, a near-death experience, childbirth, or really, I don't know, all kinds of precipitating events, going off to college and being in a new environment. But the power of plant medicine in the way that it opens us up and reminds us of our connection to the earth and the cosmos and whatever source energy is out there, the way that it reminds us of those things, it can create this very sudden and abrupt process of spiritual emergence. And if you are not integrating your psychedelic or your plant medicine experience, if you don't have a trusted person that you can talk to about that experience, it can feel very unsettling and isolating and confusing. You can feel very, very alone. So I explain spiritual emergence. I outline some key distinctions between spiritual emergence and psychosis. And I talk about some strategies for how to embrace the experience instead of try to run away from it.
Okay, that's beautiful. I know, sometimes when things do just like pop up, there's this urgency to want to change your entire life because you are now seeing something that you did not see before, but it's never really new information. You're remembering something that you forgot, and even that alone can, it can change your entire life. And let's say that you're working at a job and you haven't liked your job for a hot minute, and you go and you have an experience like this, all of a sudden you can't do it for a minute longer because you understand, like, oh, I see what this is doing to my soul. I see why I feel this way. It's been draining the life out of me and I can't do it anymore. So what do you do with people? Because I'm sure that you've experienced this, who are like, I got to change everything. I had this profound experience. How would you guide somebody to through that process?
Yeah. That's such an important consideration because there's this real tension when we receive the wisdom of plant medicine and or also have an experience of spiritual emergence. There's this real tension between, oh my God, I got to change my whole life. Like, what am I doing in this job? I'm not a banker, I'm an artist. The tension between that, like, yes, I've got this message, I've got this information, I've got to change. And then the tension between, well, but then what happens? Like, where's my security? Where's my safety? Where's the ground underneath my feet? What is the best way to do this? And I don't think that there's an easy way to resolve the tension. There's no right or wrong answer. It's not like, well, the right answer is you quit your banking job tomorrow. You write your letter of resignation, you quit, and then you go buy your canvas and your paints and you become an artist. I don't think that's the right answer. Now, that might be the right answer for a particular client after they take the time to really sit with it and explore. But I can't just unilaterally say that's the right answer. Similarly, it's also not the right answer to just be like, well, that was just the medicine talking and you got bills to pay, so you better stay in that job, right? I think the solution or the answer comes from sitting in the tension, right? And that's a key concept of the Gestalt approach to coaching, is that we oftentimes have these two opposing wants or needs. And we think they need to duke it out and one needs to win. But actually, we just need to sit in the tension between them. And then at one point, one of them might get a little more focus. Another point, the other one might get a little more focus. It's not a tension that just gets resolved. It's a tension that we learn to find balance in. And from that balance, we find a path forward. And it may be something completely different. Maybe the choice actually isn't, do I stay as a banker or do I become an artist? Maybe the path is actually something that we couldn't have ever logically deduced. We can only arrive at it by sitting in the tension.
Yeah, as you're speaking, like, this is making me think of, right, people who have addictions. So, why do you drink? Well, because you have a really uncomfortable feeling and you don't like it, and you know that doing this is going to take it away. And so then you continue to do it rather than think, what is this uncomfortable feeling trying to tell me, and sit in it and wait until you get the answer. We just pour booze on it, or we, do this, or we do that. There's a million different ways that people could cope. Maybe they eat, maybe whatever it
Chocolate
is.
bar. Yeah, that's how chocolate exists.
Yeah. But it's that uncomfortable feeling is the blessing. Like, there is information. Everything that we get is just information. And so what would a good exercise be if someone's got like this really uncomfortable feeling? What would your suggestion for like a good technique or exercise or something like that someone could do if that's what they're experiencing?
Yeah. I want to say that I love this idea of what did you say? It's an uncomfortable blessing. Is that how you phrased it?
I don't remember.
So
Something like
blessing
that
was in there somewhere. I like that idea. I really appreciate that, of it being a blessing, because in the moment, it doesn't feel that way, right? In the moment, we just have an uncomfortable feeling and it doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
Something that was very pivotal for me many years ago when I got deeper into the study of yoga on a philosophical level was this idea of attachment. So it's possible for me to have a feeling and acknowledge it and experience it without getting attached to it.
Mhm.
And it took me, I was in my late 20s when I first encountered this idea, and it took me a really long time to intellectually wrap my head around it. And I practice it. I mean, I haven't like mastered this at all, but I at least understand it because it just was so hard to grasp. Like, how can I notice and acknowledge what I'm feeling without getting sucked into it? Like, how do I do that? And again, I think it comes back to being in the body and the breath.
Mhm.
It's
Mhm.
slowing down, taking slow, deep, deliberate diaphragmatic breaths. We're getting a full tank of air and we're getting it all out to calm our nervous system down so we can find that safety. Because once we have that safety, we can sit in the uncomfortable feeling.
Mhm.
And the word asana in yoga, the word we use for posture, it translates roughly as comfortable seat.
Oh.
It's the process of finding that comfortable seat in the storm of everything that's going around us. How can I remember to connect to my breath and connect and sit in that comfortable seat, no matter what is going on around me? And this might be something that we only achieve for a moment, but that moment is a moment where we are sitting with the feeling instead of drinking alcohol or eating chocolate or numbing out on social media or whatever the thing is to distract us. Even a moment is still a moment.
Mhm. And then it just builds and grows and gets easier and better from there. A lot of people will say, or it's very difficult, right? When people start meditating because first of all, they're like self-doubting. There's all these things going through. Oh, I'm not doing this right. I'm just sitting here. I'm still thinking about things. There's all this stuff, but it's like anything. When you start playing soccer, are you a soccer star to start out? No, you got to go to practice. You got to do it. So, even just a couple minutes or just a minute, 1 minute of just sitting there in the silence and just practice. It really is practice. And then these things do become second nature, so much easier.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So we are almost out of time here,
Yeah.
but what if you had a message that you just want to share with everybody? What's the message that you would just love to share? The whole world needs to know it.
Oh,
What's your
wow.
message?
I think the message would be that change happens when you become who you are.
Ooh, yes, I love this.
So the more that we can develop a relationship with ourselves and an understanding and acceptance of ourselves, the more likely it is that we're going to get the kinds of outcomes that we're looking for. Change
Mhm.
happens when we become who we are.
Yeah, I love that. And really, our whole life is like we're unbecoming. Everything that we thought that we were, we're like, oh, that was a mask. Oh, that was a mask too. Oh, my ego got involved there. That's not the real me. And I think, these profound things like, hypnosis sessions or plant medicine sessions or, these kinds of things are so powerful and they're so profound. They really can change us in an instant. They can change us in one session, in one sitting. And that alone can be uncomfortable when we're so used to things being this way. And now, well, we can't operate in that way anymore. But I can say for myself, it's only good. Only good comes from this when you realize, like, oh, that's not me. I have to let that go. Maybe it's sad to let it go, but you're going to be so much happier when you do and when you integrate more into who you actually are.
Yeah.
These beautiful, profound experiences that we have. If anyone is wanting to work with Hope here, her information will be accessible down below. Thank you so much for being on here today. This is so great. I know the time always flies by so fast, but thank you so much for being here, Hope. This was wonderful.
Oh, it was my pleasure, Michelle. Thank you so much for having me on. Really
Of
enjoyed
course.
my time.
All right. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we will see you guys in the next one. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining the Real Healing Institute show with me, Michelle Sinclair. Tune in every second and fourth Wednesday at 9:30 a.m. Pacific on TransformationTalkRadio.com for more empowering ways to spread love and set yourself free. Together, we'll elevate the consciousness of the planet. Stay connected. Follow me on social media, subscribe to the podcast, and explore the Mental Cleanse series on YouTube. Ready to go deeper? Book a session with Michelle at therealhealinginstitute.com. Until next time, keep healing, keep growing, and remember, love is the only way.